Hi everybody, it is Stacey Calder from the Business Success Network and magazine and the Business Success Network podcast, and I'm delighted, as it is the Woman in Business special that we are running this series, to have the wonderful Claire Napper with us, who is going to take the lead on this today. So Claire, over to you. Do you want to introduce yourself and then introduce our guest for today?
Yeah, so we are doing this for the Women in Business group and magazine that I have taken over, that Stacey's let me run and go wild with. Heaven help her. Other than that, I do have my own personalised gift business, but it is not about that today. It is about shouting about women in business. So we have our fabulous guest, Kim. So Kim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yes, I'm Kim. I have two businesses. One's focused on muscle healing therapies, and the other one, Muscle Mechanics, works on producing self-care kits for everyday life issues that you might go through. So if you are thinking of it, it's like your naturally made first aid kit. So if you're a runner or someone who works too much and knows that they work too much, they might need a bit of respite in between meetings. These kinds of kits are there to just keep you going so that you don't fall off task just because work's come in and all of a sudden you don't know what to do and you hit meltdown. This is just to keep you focused and finish what you started.
I know I need that, and I know Stacey needs something like that.
We were both, for those of you that are watching on Spotify, me and Claire were both going, yes, that is it. Absolutely. We were nodding.
I was going to point, but I wasn't sure which, because obviously with verses, I'm like, do I point that way or that way?
So Kim, we're delighted to have you here on the show today. And so the theme for today that we're going to be talking about is breaking through barriers to success. And I love that because, you know, when we talk about business success, that is the whole kind of theme around the network, and it means so much to different people. And we're going to come on to that a bit later on. But you've got such a story, and I think Claire's really determined to get these stories out there.
I am.
With the Women in Business group and the magazine and the podcast. So how are you at sharing your story? You know, what is it that kind of got you into this? Because you just said backstage before we came on that you are in quite a male dominated environment, and we're going to talk about some of the barriers in a minute, but you know, you have your own story, don't you?
Yes. The reason why Muscle Mechanics developed, it was really due to my son's ill health. Obviously, I'm a mum of three children. It's busy being a parent. There's lots going on. And with two of my boys, there's about 22 months between them. So they're pretty much on call, wanting your attention all day, every day. But with my son, he was particularly ill. He had a brain tumor diagnosis back in 2017. And our whole world just changed. Everything, what we knew as being parents, as that was me and my partner as well, we had to reconfigure. We had to figure out how do we still keep going and manage all the medical appointments, but also our other children, because I had a young baby as well. Mason's 3 months old at diagnosis. So it's trying to keep all of that going, and yourself, because you think of yourself last. It was quite a shock to the system. And perhaps the way I was operating before all of this happened wasn't the best way anyway. I just didn't know about it. And when your back's against the wall and you're facing adversity full on, you come up with different solutions. And they are the way forward. You stop the chatter in your mind and you start listening to this more intuitive response of how you deal with things. So for us, his tumor, it had to be worked with a surgical team. They removed most of it, which is fantastic news, but it left him with a lifelong condition called posterior fossa syndrome, where all his muscles turned off. He couldn't speak, eat, sit up. He could only really just communicate with his eyes. And the loss of speech was profound. And as a therapist, it was a shift. I had to get out of being mum for a second and think professionally, how can I best help him and be of service to him? And I think that was the game changer in the hospital bedside. I just thought, I can't be heartbroken every night and keep crying at his bedside. This isn't what he's needing of me at the moment. He needs someone else. And I had to think about, what do I do for a living? It was that light bulb moment, midnight at the bedside. What do I do for a living? I'm a therapist. Let's just think of him as a client. And what would I do if I was treating a client? And from that point, it really changed things between me and him as a dynamic. And I just came up with all sorts of stuff. You know, as a parent, it doesn't prevent you from being creative. You get all the toys out, you start having a silly game, a laugh with him, anything to get some reaction. And as the days progressed, you could see little bits of him coming back. And it was sort of my way in. I had no clue what I was doing, because no one wants to be in this position, this 1% club of people and parents dealing with seriously ill children. But I was just thinking, I've got to try everything, right? It's the only way you're going to know. And from that point, and obviously dealing with medical professionals, they were predominantly male. They're very assertive, authoritative as well. I needed to make my opinion matter and count. So if I was concerned, I had to speak up more instead of hiding and expecting them to know all the concerns I had. And it was just as well I found my voice, because there were things they missed, and that could have made his situation a lot more fatal to him. And I was very grateful for that. It's just something like a playful shove within my own spirituality. Say something. And I think I built on it afterwards when we came out of that hospital side of things into my own business. And it's been a good quality to have.
It sounds amazing, and you're absolutely right. I hear. In fact, we were talking about it on the previous. In fact, the last two previous podcasts, I think, Claire, weren't we? Where we were talking about this need to get your story out there and to speak up and to have your voice heard, because nobody else is going to shout about your business, about your story, about all those different things. So I feel like there's a bit of a theme going on here with this.
Definitely. And obviously, I don't know Kim's story and how she got started and why. And just listening to it, I just got all emotional and I'm like, no, Claire, don't cry. It's like, that must have been, obviously it's life-changing on so many levels, but you've done so well to come out the other side as well as you have, and that is so inspiring.
I think it's there's a lot of people, when you're in this position, when things go wrong, they want to point the finger of blame straight away, and they go straight for the medical professionals that effectively would have saved your child's life. I had to think of a different way of handling that. I was angry. I was very frustrated with the situation of how things came about, but I thought doing that wouldn't help. I needed to build something sustainable for my son. I was looking at the long-term aspect, not what was right in front of me. And that's when I thought, if I build a business with all my skill set, because every skill I possess was being called upon, then that surely would exceed anything that I would have gotten out of a situation in a legal framework. To me, it just didn't feel right to do it that way. I just thought I need to do something else. Maybe it's bigger. Perhaps it is bigger, but it's certainly in a positive direction. And I wanted to go in that way rather than be fire with fire, going to court battles and things like that. It wasn't something I wanted to endure, especially with him being so fragile. He needed more support and stability.
Yeah, I mean, going down the court battle, you could have gone back and forth for so long, and it can neglect the family things and all that extra stress. And just turning it around and thinking of it in that different way that's a great testament to you on how you handle things as well.
It was I did a lot of journaling.
Don't
think it got away. It was in there, all this bubbling rage, all this went wrong and they missed this, and I was writing books of this stuff. And I thought, well, I don't really want to read it back. I did read a couple of bits back where there were pretty bad days, and I thought, I should burn this. It's not good for me to hold on to that. And I think that helped unleash all of this inner sort of fire you carry, because being a mum, you can be massively protective. You have that instinct about you. You want everything to go well, and when things don't, you're instantly in there fighting their corner. You want them to be accountable, and you're pointing your finger saying who did this and who did that. But at the same time, you feel distraught because you couldn't change the outcome. I think that was a big hurdle.
What a way to track that journey, though, to, like you say, you don't want to be dwelling on it. You didn't want to read it all back, but actually, you know, having that, even if you don't read back, just getting it out there gives you a way of, you know, it's there, we've acknowledged it, you can park it for as long as you want. But actually, if you ever did want to, you know, there's probably a book in it somewhere.
I was just going to say that.
You know me, I'm going to hit about marketing assets and things. You know, we've talked a lot about sharing your story and things, and some of it will be very raw, and some of it will be, like you said, oh my God, I was having a really bad day in that day, so I wouldn't want to read that back. But actually, when you're looking back and you're reflecting on it, and I read your nomination from the awards that you entered, and so that's kind of, I knew a bit about your story, but not all of it. And so, you know, hearing that, actually, we are talking about breaking down barriers. It allows you to kind of move forward because you've journaled the past really as well. So you've got that evidence, that catalogue of your story, and it's wonderful to hear, I have to say.
It was quite funny. You know, when you go around with a notebook, it's quite off-putting for staff in the hospital. When you go around and you start carrying a notebook with a pen, they think you're making notes about them. But I never told them either way. I just had it carried around, you know, and if they needed to do obs on my son, they were quite quick about it.
But I suppose with everything you were going through, it's such a minefield of information that's just being bombarded at you.
Yeah.
If you didn't write it down, there's bits you're going to miss, or you're going to go home and not remember what they've said completely. So it's a great way of staying on top of everything.
It was just insane because my son was only 3 months at diagnosis. So he was like this tiny little squidgy 6-month-old in hospital, and I was just coming out of feeding to go bottle feeds, and my hormones were all over the place. I just remember distinctly one day you'd be absolutely fine with everything, calm, and then the next minute I couldn't even write it. I thought, why was I that mad? It was something quite simple they were asking me, but it's the whole balancing of your body. And if you're a new mum again, it's a different experience per child. It's never the same. And I think my youngest, well, he was just a mobile baby. He just knew he had to go. There's mum, I'll go with her, and that's it. So
got out and about quite a bit.
So like I said, we are going to, we talked about these pillars, and we've talked about things in business, and actually what's really lovely is you've led on to it there is women do have all these different barriers. You know, we've all got home lives, we've all got stuff going on, but there are also, you know, these incredible women that have got all this extra stuff going on as well. And I know you've got some kind of tips, some thoughts to share with us about breaking through those barriers to success. So what is it then when we said to you, come and join us on the podcast, come and talk about this, breaking through the barriers to success? I mean, your kind of hand was like, yeah, let's do this. Hand went up kind of thing. Let's have a chat. So tell us more about that then.
I think for me, I've had to learn a lot about myself. And I think as a parent, as a mum, you don't invest as much time in yourself. But the biggest lesson I've had is doing reflection of who I am now versus who I was 2 years ago, and seeing the growth journey, because growth in everybody is different, and you don't realize how successful you are until you've seen where you come from. It's like the journey that everyone has strong visualization. They see where they want to be, but it's actually all the little steps that got you there. That's the real gritty stuff, you know, that's the story of how you make it. And for me, go back to my parents, my mother was of a generation where it was the male was the breadwinner. She had a certain allowance per week. It made me uncomfortable when I was 16. And even now, speaking about it makes me feel very uncomfortable. It was just not something I was willing to do myself. Yet it was like an imprint. That's how we're going to do things. And you have to stand firm and really say, look, I'm not comfortable with this. I want to do something else. And this is my chat with my dad back then was, I don't think I can do that. I want to be an inventor. I want to do product design and do my own business. And he hadn't got a clue how that would work out for me, because in his mind, that's how they did things. You know, you get married, you have children, and mine was completely different mindset. So from then on, I realized if I could hold my own then, and that's with my parents, who are supposed to be the biggest role models for me, where else can I hold my own? And it just sort of transcended into the course I was picking. I knew it was male dominated. In product design, there was 3 females versus 68 males in my university group. Wow. So you've got to be heard in that sort of audience, and also you've got to withstand all this banter that goes on, sexism. It was rife when I was at university. And if you're still confident, there's little tiny flakes of confidence that are still there. You get your work done and you keep under the radar. And I think building it and tolerating the male environment has allowed me to be able to stand clear of my intention of what I want to do to help them, instead of being opposition. I'm now sort of in a collaboration phase. So I think some people call it exposure therapy. You just have to keep going at the same situation, and you have very different outcomes each time, but you still remain intentional to what you want to achieve.
So you spoke there about being in a male dominant environment at university, and I'm guessing, you know, in business now. It's something that I'm really kind of passionate about, is telling women to grab their seat at the table, you know, and if they can't grab a seat, then dance on the bloody table until you get noticed, kind of thing. I'll take that as a little swear, sorry. But, you know, do you find that still the case? Do you still think it's very much a male dominant environment? Do you think business as a whole is still male dominant, or is it changing? What's your experience with that?
It's a slow process. It is changing, but the opportunities need to be there. You know, if not everyone's a trailblazer, not everyone's going to create that path. Some people need to see a light, or someone shining a light to that pathway, to then take it up and do their own thing. And with women in business, or women in business that are from a minority background, it gets even more niche, and there's even less opportunity. So you have to really know yourself. I think the key is to know what you are capable of, what your special USP, that's very business related, but, you know, your special innate gift that you can offer to other people, and stick with it, because you can visualize your outcome, and it will become real. Every time you're spending time thinking about it and visualizing the end goal, like me running a marathon, for example, at the start of training, I think there's no way I'm going to do 26 miles. And then coming up to October, hang on a minute, I'm doing half marathons. That's possible. Then I get the medal. It's like, wow, I did it. And it's always the same when you get to that platform, when you launch your business, you still can't believe you did it, but the vision was always strong. So yeah, I mean, take the seat at the table. It doesn't matter if men are present or not. You know, you're all human beings, so you should be able to work together and appreciate the difference that we provide.
I think that's really important. And I know you said before in the last bit as well about collaboration, and it's kind of going in with that. It's like, it shows that, yeah, I am coming at it from a different angle, but we can still all work together and progress it. And there's more than one way of doing things.
Oh, yes.
I noticed you said a couple of times there about visualizing, about having those, you know, that kind of that goal visualized in your head, the outcome. I'm guessing visualization is something you work with quite, and you believe in quite strongly for breaking down these barriers and things like that.
Yes, it's very important for my son as well, to see that happening. So he has aspirations. So for him to move from crawling around and recovering that skill to actually bear walking to standing, he needed to see how that would come about, because he'd already done it in a previous time of his life. he had missed all of those milestones again, so you had to re-simulate it. So my youngest Mason was like the motivator. You were showing him all these steps again, and you could see from him he was motivated to try it. And if you can have that visualization, then there's no reason why you can't recover fully. That you can never say never to anything. It's all down to the actual person themselves and what they want to do. It's on their terms. I can't rush him. He will do what he does when he wants to do it. And he could be a brilliant therapist, but one day if he doesn't want to do it, you can't change his mind. You have to find a negotiation. So
amazing. What do you think is the biggest barrier that people, maybe specifically women, struggle with in business?
Knowing their worth, knowing their true worth. Like for me, I'm still working on that. You've got something and it's very valuable, and that might be knowledge, a service, a product. It could be the way you do things, how you organize yourselves. I mean, being a mum is a massive task. It's a full-time job. You don't get a salary for, but you've got lots of brilliant skills you can bring to business with it. And it's just knowing what they're worth. And now what's great is from a masculine point of view, they know numbers so well, and they will not be afraid to put a value on it. But for us being in a female world, sometimes I find that hard. I don't know what number that is. And it's getting to grips with it and being totally comfortable with saying, look, I want to take this. This is what I'm capable of achieving. That's my value, and going for it and building. So not to make yourself in a worse position for feeling in fear of not being good enough when you are good enough.
That has tied in so much with the other podcasts we've done today. It's like a reoccurring comment that comes up. It's whether it's from that side of it or people around you making you feel you're not worth enough. But everyone is like knowing your worth and believing in yourself. And it is such an important thing. And we're so bad at doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
We doubt each other. We doubt ourselves. We can cheer on everyone so well. And I always say, I'm great for giving out advice. I'm terrible at taking my own advice.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone.
I definitely think it's something, I talk a lot about finding your cheerleaders. We've spoke on several occasions about, just finding that squad that will raise you up. But actually, and Kim, I think you touched on this. When you listen to your self-talk, and you wouldn't speak to your children, your colleagues, you wouldn't even speak to your worst enemy, like some of the things that you speak to yourself about. And it's just, when you think that is the most important voice, isn't it? We've talked earlier on in this edition about neg ferrets and negative self-talk and, self-belief. Actually, your voice is the most important voice for hearing that. And just you talking about visualization and stuff, Kim, I think is massively important, and it's something that we all should practice probably. So
yeah, we should do a lot more of it. Definitely. I found myself doing it. I think just this morning I was on a crafting group and I was looking through just to see what people have posted, and I never share my stuff in there because I'm like, well, they do, and I caught myself doing but they do this and I just do this, and I didn't feel like what I do is good enough to put in there.
Just there, you just is such a powerful word, because it's like that. I'll try, and when someone I'll try to get there. I actually say now, don't bother, because it's just a no. They're not coming. So if even just that we aim for, or we're going to, just those little words, but just
changing those little words.
I'm just a mum. How many times I used to say I'm just a mum, when that is one of the most important job roles. So, and that I think that leads us nicely, because we've done it again. We've talked for 24 minutes, and I always say it always goes over. And I always end the podcasts, Kim, with the really simple question. I say simple. We always get lots of different answers, which I love. But what does business success look like to you?
For me, I'm going to go back to visualization again. It's a product designer in me. I can't take it out. It's going from an initial idea and carrying it through into reality. So there's no time frame on it. It's just seeing through what you initially thought you would do. And that could be like a marathon, that could be seeing like your child walk again, in my case, or it could be your business, like an initial seed of an idea, seeing it become tangible, it's in your hands and you're selling it to other people. What's more successful than that? That's actually bringing it to the real world for everybody to see and sharing it. So don't hog it all to yourself. Let everyone else have a go and see what this is that you've created.
Amazing.
Definitely shout about it afterwards.
I love that.
And that's why we're doing this, is because I said to Stacey, I wanted, after I shared my story and kind of talked about myself, which I never thought I'd do, I wanted a way for other women to do the same thing and just do it in a community where they feel like they're comfortable to do it. And especially for people like me that can be a bit nervous about it, it's a safe place to do it. Get your story out there, talk about it, inspire others, help others.
I know, and isn't she doing well? She's not, she's talking about this inside the community. I don't think she's quite cottoned on that this podcast goes absolutely everywhere on Android, YouTube. And you did actually say to me, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see us. Whereas if you're watching it on if you're listening to it on any of the other platforms, you won't. But Claire did say to me, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you videoed this. I've actually got to make an appearance." So we all have our hang-ups and we all have this thing of, we want to shout about each other. But when it comes to ourselves, sometimes we are a little bit nervous. Some of us are a little bit introverted, which is okay. You can still market yourself and put yourself out there as an introvert, as, somebody with not so much self-belief, but it's definitely something we need to build on, all of us, which is fantastic. Kim, we have, like I said, we've spoke for 25 minutes now about breaking down the barriers, about visualization. It's been wonderful to hear your story as well. And we will definitely, you are in the Woman in Business Business Success Network Facebook group. I think you're in the Business Success UK group. It's such a great community for sharing these stories and for sharing what you do. So thank you for being a really active member. Thank you for being part of today. It's been incredible. I've been Stacey Calder. She's been Claire Napper. You've been Kim. Now I was gonna say your surname and then I'm gonna get it wrong. So I'm gonna let you do it because I will get tongue-tied.
I've been Kim Shamtally.
Shamtally. See, I nearly said Shamatally, and that would have been really wrong. Shamtally. There we go. I was going to make a blooper at some point, wasn't I? Thank you very much for joining us. Give my love to all your family, Kim, because what an incredible story.
Definitely.